Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. Evil Mike with you. And I got another review. This is Dark Horse, Masters of the Universe, Revelation, issue number 2. Um, let's see, let's get into it. We got story by Kevin Smith and Rob David, art by Mindy Lee. It says script by Tim Sheridan, and let's see, colors by Rico, Renzi, and letters by Deron, Bennett. It's continuing the first issue, but really it's kind of like a filler issue with a spin, I guess you can say. We're going to get into it, and then I'll talk about it at the end. Basically, a weird panel at the beginning that explains nothing. I have no idea what they're trying to say. Basically, it's like something about beware of the revolution and something in the mind's eye. Might be hints on what's coming, but really I think it's just a callback to the first issue with, going back to He-Man and him going through the portal and finding out about the origin of the sword. So this issue is pretty much Skeletor, and Skeletor and Evil Lyn. He is commanding that, to all his minions and Evil Lyn that he wants to be in contact with the Orlax again. He was already in contact with it, and the first time it was revealed that there was like some secrets and he saw certain things, but not enough to piece it all together. So he's like demanding that, that Evil Lyn, make the connection, and she explains that the sorceress, while she is connected with him at the moment, that that there's no chance, so they'll have to try again, like when she goes to sleep or something like that. We go into, like, she asked a simple question about, like, about magic and about why it's so necessary for him to do this, and saying that here on Eternia magic is abundant, and basically Skeletor saying, well, where I came from originally it wasn't. So we basically get like an origin story, and they go back to Apollos, where they show Skeletor, with other Skeletor people. For me being a He-Man fan, this was new. I mean, we did have Hordak, and he had the Skeletor face, and we had so there are some other Skeletor looking people. But as far as I know, this was the first time they've showed his race, so it might be new, but we'll get into some other stuff after it. So they just basically show that Skeletor was basically a slave, and eventually, and they show it's quick. This whole story is done in quick sessions, but basically, it's Skeletor as a slave. He uprises and is seen as like a hero to his people. In that moment, he finds he calls it the He-Man power, because it was like the right type of power. He was helping people, and so at the same time he did find love. When this happened, he ends up meeting a Skeletor lady, and they show here, which they kind of fast forward, and eventually they do get pregnant and Skeletor has a daughter. They kind of show you that he did take care of his oppressors, but he really didn't. They were just kind of hiding, and eventually they do come back. And when they come back, they went specifically after him because he was the one that caused the uprising to begin with. When they do come back, they kill his daughter and his wife, and basically leave him, to wallow in his sorrow kind of thing, because they know he'll be broken kind of thing. He ends up making an out loud prayer, and somehow it is answered. They show a ship show up, and it's Hordak and his crew with his army, and basically shows up and says that he's going to take over Apollos, and he knows about Skeletor, and he wants Skeletor to join him as an apprentice to teach him magic, and to firsthand the taking of Apollos. They do they go into again quick session, but for me this was kind of major because I love Skeletor, and there is one thing that they've never explained, and it's his staff. And supposedly in this story it was his the slavers that he eventually kills, and he takes one of their heads and barbecues it, and then him and Hordak make it magical. So to me, it was kind of cool to see that it was actually one, that the ram head that's on his skull was actually one of the, ram looking, slavers that actually had him enslaved. Um, After they do this, after Skeletor like ends up killing the slavers and freeing his people, um, Hordak asks what he wants to do with the people on Apollos, and Skeletor basically tells him that he wants them to stay in the pride of Hordak's armada. That basically they'll be taking it as new slaves, kind of thing. Um, they do show that, like right here, that the Skeletor's people are turned into those like Hordak soldiers or whatever. So they're not necessarily slaves. They're kind of like retrofitted into his army, and they do show like some of the slavers that did make it after the purging. But basically at that point, like Hordak tells Skeletor that if he's interested in continuing his pursuit in magic and his apprenticeship, that he would be granted a gift, and that he would teach him some death magic and the ability to bring back dead individuals. Skeletor puts in the time, and eventually he does bow down before Hordak and says, "Look, we conquered Apollos. Are you going to teach me this death magic?" And eventually Hordak kind of like, "Oh, we need to do this, and I'll eventually get to it." But eventually he does allow him a taste of death magic, but he is instructed that he will only be able to bring back one life. Of course, he wants his wife and his daughter back. He makes the choice of bringing his daughter back, and quickly Hordak takes Skeletor's daughter from him and says that she will stay on Apollos to be raised as like, a princess type thing, and that they have other conquests to attend to. Basically saying that they're on their way to Eternia, and that's where the end game is. After they conquer Eternia, Skeletor will get his daughter back, and he will get free reign of Apollos as the god of Apollos, kind of thing. They basically show that Skeletor's telling the story to Evelyn, and he's explaining that he was so young and everything, and he should have been taking into all the sights and stuff, because Hordak took him to all kind of different dimensions and planets and stuff like that before even getting to Eternia. But Skeletor mentions that in the process of getting closer to Eternia, that Hordak messed up, that there was some kind of connection with him, with Skeletor in Eternia, and as he got closer to Eternia, he got stronger, and not only that, but was able to find the magic he needed to overcome another oppressor, which was Hordak. And they show kind of like, what we know Skeletor to be, with Snake Way and all his minions fighting He-Man. And basically at the end of it, Evil Lynn being like, "Yeah, I don't believe any of that." She's like, "I've known you for too long, and you got me there with the wife and the daughter story and blah blah blah." So kind of like what it is like a Joker origin story, and we don't really know if all of that really happens. That's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning that this is possibly like a filler, because it goes back and forth. Because even in this conversation, even after Evelyn kind of calls him a liar, and also like at the same time, like not really a liar, but like, "Ha, you're joking," kind of thing, because she is faithful to Skeletor as far as evil goes. But there's like multiple like passes between the two, where you're not really sure if his origin story was the truth or if he was just messing with her. But like the last scene they do have of this conversation is him holding this pendant that was supposedly from his wife in that story. So it kind of leads me to believe that it is a true origin story, and she's just not believing it. I want to believe it because it does explain like his staff, and it kind of gives us more of a backstory on Skeletor, that he once had a race of skeleton people, and he had a daughter and a wife, and it kind of makes, gives Skeletor more of a story. I mean, as far as I know, I didn't know anything about Skeletor except for what he looks like and what he's about from the moment you saw him in the cartoon. So any bit of information about Skeletor was kind of happy, but at the same time, I mean, it could be a ruse or a joke. So we see Evelyn kind of like brushing off the joke as she takes it, and she's walking to her bedroom inside Snake Way, and it is revealed at the very end that she is actually the reason that he cannot connect with Orlax, that she is the magic wielder that is, you know, in contact with Orlax, and basically that she's trying to figure out these secrets to Eternia before you know, Skeletor or He-Man can figure them out. We do get a look to the next cover, and it's basically saying that the next issue is kind of going to be a Evil Lyn origin story, because the majority of it is about her, but also it's going to go more into the King Randor and more about Hordak. So yeah, issue 2, I enjoyed it, even though it was kind of a filler issue. I actually really enjoyed it because it was just about Skeletor. I mean, everybody pumped up about He-Man. I mean, shit, they could have gave me a 12 episode and it was just Skeletor and I would have been happy. Yeah, but that's my review. Like, comment, subscribe, share, you know, tell your peeps about Evil Mike, you know. No, just, but hey, did you read it? Did you pick it up? Did you pass it? You know, did the Netflix show have anything to, you know, to do with you passing up the second issue? Because the first issue did drop before this show. I personally enjoyed the show. I understand why some people might not have liked it, but I do have to, I mean, it was the first 5 episodes. It's not the full story yet. But that's what I got for you, and I might have a couple more coming for you. All right, guys. Bye.